Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you all are keeping well. I hope everything is great. And in today's video, I'm back with another amazing recipe to share with you guys. Now throughout Guyana, throughout Trinidad, and the other Indo-Caribbean or West Indian countries, there are so many different types of rotis that are made. Now in Guyana, especially aloo roti or aloo paratha is something that is enjoyed widely throughout Guyana. So I already shared the traditional recipe on my channel, the very plain version with just the potatoes and a few simple seasonings. I'll have it linked right up here in the right hand corner if you're interested in seeing that. But if you want to see how I spruce up that recipe and I add in a few other non-traditional seasonings and ingredients, then please keep on watching. But before we get into the recipe, if you have not subscribed yet, please go ahead and click that red subscribe button and join the Matthew's Guyanese Cooking family. And of course, click that little bell notification icon and you will be notified every time I post my newest videos. Just as with any of my other flatbread or roti recipes, I always try to make them as simple and as step-by-step as possible. So please bear with me throughout the process and I'm going to show you how to put these together effortlessly. So in a large bowl, I'm going to go in with all of my all-purpose flour. If you wanted to mix this with some whole wheat flour, then feel free to do so as well. And once you add in that all-purpose flour into your bowl, you're going to add in a few other dry ingredients. So at this point, I'm going to go in with my baking powder, and all of my ingredients and measurements will be linked right down in the description box below, so make sure you look out for those when you're putting this dish together. And besides the baking powder, I am also going to go in with a little bit of salt. A little tip from one of my aunts: whenever she makes her roti, she always adds in a little bit of salt, so this way it stays nice and soft. And I truly believe her because my roti stays nice and soft. And on top of the salt, I'm also going to go in with some granulated sugar. I also find that that helps keep the roti soft as well. Once you add in all of those dried ingredients, it is time to start mixing it up with some clean hands. And once you mix all of those dried ingredients together, you're going to go in with a few tablespoons of oil. You can use any type of oil or any type of fat that you would like. I prefer using canola or vegetable oil, but if you wanted to use ghee for this, feel free to do so as well. Once you add that oil in, you're going to go ahead and mix it up really well just to get it combined throughout all of the flour. And then at that point, you can start mixing in some warm water. Now, whenever I make roti, the warmer the water to knead the dough, I find is the better. The dough will come out much softer, it'll be easier to work with, and your end result will be nice and soft. If you use very cold water when mixing any type of dough, the end result tends to get very hard and stiff when it's done cooking. And as you guys can see, I'm only adding in a little bit of water at a time. You do want a soft dough, but you do not want something that is super sticky and unmanageable to work with. So I recommend adding just a little bit at a time. You're going to want to go ahead and keep grabbing up the flour and mixing it with all of the dried flour, so this way you don't see any dried flour anymore. So once you see that it comes together really well and it's nice and soft, you're going to use my punching method that I always use whenever mixing any type of dough to start kneading it. You never want to fold it onto itself. You want to go ahead and just punch it down and then flip it back over to continue kneading until you get a nice soft dough. So just continue following my method and trust me, you will have the perfect roti. So many people ask me why their roti comes out stiff, and the first thing I always ask them is, are you kneading it the correct way? So this is just a little demo of how I knead my dough. I just punch it down and then I go ahead and grab up all of the piece of dough and I flip it back over. And you continue to do this until it is smooth all over. If you fold it onto itself, what happens is the dough starts to tear and you develop the glutens too much. And when you develop the glutens in the dough, you tend to have a roti that gets hard and stiff very fast. And once your dough comes together into one single smooth ball, you're going to poke on it, and once it springs back at you a little bit, it is ready to rest. So I got it into one ball. I'm going to cover it with some plastic wrap and let it rest for about 20 to 30 minutes as I work on my potato filling. So the potato filling is very simple. I'm not doing the traditional potato filling with just a little bit of garlic and pepper. I'm also going to add in a few other ingredients to give it some more flavor and just to hype it up a little bit. So in my bowl, I have some mashed potatoes. These are just potatoes that I went ahead and I boiled off. You want to make sure not to overboil them because if they're too soft, they will burst out of the dough. But once they came out of that hot water and I drained them really well, I mashed them. Now I'm going in with some finely grated carrots, going in with some finely chopped scallions, and I'm also going to go in with a little fresh seasoning paste that I just made. This has some garlic, this has some thick leaf thyme from my garden, some culantro, as well as some hot pepper and pimento peppers. All of the ingredients will be down in the description box as usual, so make sure you check there for everything that I'm adding into this filling. And at this point, I'm going to go in with a liberal amount of salt, so this way it is flavored really, really well. Now some people, if you wanted to, and if you're about that life, you can add in some cheese. I decided not to because some people in my household would not have liked that. But honestly, if you want to add in some shredded cheese, feel free to do so as well. So at this point, I'm going to mix everything up really well. And something that I love to add into my stuffed rotis, whether it be aloo puri or dal puri or anything like that, is a little bit of roasted ground geera or cumin. It adds such a nutty flavor and such a depth of flavor to the filling. Trust me, you will enjoy it so much. So I added in a little bit of that, and I'm going to continue to mix, and then I can set this filling aside. As you guys can see, it was very easy to put together. So after I finished mixing my dough and setting it aside, it sat for about 35 minutes while I was working on the potato filling for the aloo roti. So I recommend allowing it to sit for about 20 to 30 minutes, just so this way those glutens can relax a bit and you will get a really, really soft roti dough in the end. So with that one ball of dough, I'm going to put it out onto my surface, and I'm going to divide them into my desired amount of balls that I want. Now, of course, as always, I recommend going based on the size of your tawa, so I don't make mine too big just because my tawa is only about 12 inches. So I'm going to go ahead, break them into balls and smoothen them out, and then I'll come back and show you what to do next. And to smoothen out the balls of dough, it is very simple. All you need to do is take one of your balls of dough and start to fold it over onto itself using the palms of your hands. And once you fold it onto itself and you get a smooth bottom, you're going to go ahead and grab up all of those edges and pinch them together. The reason why we do this is just so this way all of the balls are uniform and they will get filled with the filling much better than if you did not do this. So once you smoothen it out, you're going to cover the bottom of it with a little bit of flour and set it aside, and continue doing this with the rest of your dough balls. All of my loyas or my dough balls have been smoothened out really, really well. Now at this point, it is time to fill them. So I took one of the dough balls and I started to flatten it out really well. You want to go ahead and flatten out the edges more so than the middle. So you want the middle to be very thick. The reason being is because when you put the filling in and you roll it out, the middle tends to be the first part to thin out and then burst. So you want to make sure it's thicker at this point. So this way, by the time you roll it out, it'll be totally fine. So I went ahead after smoothing it out, I put in a little bit of dried flour just so this way it was not too moist with the potato inside, and then I added in a nice ball of the potato filling. Now I added in about 1/3 of a cup. You can add in more or you can add in less just depending on your preferences. Just know that the more you add in, the harder it is to fill and the harder it is to roll, so be careful. Now when you get it in, you're just going to go ahead and pinch the sides really well until it is properly sealed and they are ready to cook. So I'm going to continue filling the rest of my balls first, and then I will start to cook them. All of my dough balls have been filled with my potato mixture. I did not have any potato mixture left over. It all ended up being used with all of my dough balls. But you might have a little bit left over or you might not have any left over, just depending on how big or small you make the dough balls and how much you fill them or not. But anyways, what we're going to do now is create a little baste for what we're going to oil them with on the stove as they're cooking. So in a little saucepan, I have some canola oil as well as some salted butter, so this way I can baste them as they're on the stove. But if you didn't want to use the salted butter, you can just use plain oil. You can use oil and ghee, you could use plain ghee, whatever floats your boat, go ahead and use that. And at this point, once you finish making your baste and you finish filling all of the dough balls, it is time to roll them out. So I took one of my dough balls, I put it out onto my surface, and I am flouring it very, very liberally, so this way nothing sticks. The reason why you want nothing to stick, especially with any filled rotis, is because if it begins to stick and you try to flip it over, you can actually tear it and then you have the filling everywhere all over the board. It's very messy and it's very annoying to deal with. So at this point, once you get it floured really well, you're going to go on carefully with your rolling pin and continue to roll it out until you get a nice rounded shape. Now you can make these as thick or as thin as you want. I prefer them on the thinner side. And so I'm just going to keep on rolling it out, and I want to be careful so this way I get all of the edges nice and thin, because if your edges are too thick, they will stay very doughy as they're cooking on the tawa. And once you finish rolling out your dough ball that you filled with the potato, you're going to go ahead and put it on your heated tawa. So what I like to do whenever making filled roti such as dal puri or aloo puri, what I like to do is take my tawa, heat it up, and then butter it a little bit with that base that we made with the butter and the oil, and then put the puri or the paratha on. The reason why I do this is because I find with the filled rotis, sometimes they tend to stick on the tawa, and if they stick and you try to flip it, all of the filling will spill out. So what I like to do when I first get it on the pan is brush it immediately with that butter and oil mixture that we had, and then at that point we can go ahead and flip it. Once I oil the top side and I see some bubbles start to form, I went ahead and I flipped my roti. As you guys can see, it has some beautiful golden brown marks all throughout it. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and baste it again with that butter and oil mixture. Again, if you did not want to use butter and oil, you could use any type of fat. I know some people even use coconut oil, ghee, or any other types of things to oil their rotis with. So I'm going to do this liberally, and then I'm going to continue to flip it onto the next side until I get all sides golden brown and crispy. Now I'm being very honest with all of you, my aloo roti does not always puff up, and that's just in the name of the game. What happens sometimes is the potatoes tend to burst out, especially when you roll it as thin as I did, but trust me, they will still cook perfectly, they will still be nice and golden brown, and most importantly, they will stay nice and soft and ready to eat. And look at that, just after a couple of seconds, you have all of those beautiful golden brown spots. You're just going to fold it up really well, and you're going to take it off the stove and put it in a container lined with some paper towels, so this way they can stay nice and soft. As you guys can see, they're crispy, they have a beautiful golden brown exterior, and they are nice and soft and ready to eat. Now before I show you guys the final product, I wanted to give you guys some more tips while rolling it out, just to remind you guys on how to roll them out perfectly. So what you have to do is make sure you have it well floured on that surface. Again, if it's not well floured, what happens is if it sticks, all of the filling will end up on your board, and then you can't really cook the roti because the filling is everywhere. And as you're rolling it out, you want to use an even pressure. You don't want to be too heavy on it or else it may burst. And of course, you want to keep on rolling out the sides before you get to the middle, so this way the sides are nice and thin. If you leave them too thick, what happens is they tend to not cook properly on the tawa, and then you have a gummy roti, and the sides end up getting hard when the roti cools. So you got to be careful with that as well. But other than that, you can roll them as thin or as thick as you want. Just go ahead and keep those little tips and tricks in mind when you are doing it yourself. And just as I said before, the process is very simple. You're going to go ahead and butter or oil your hot tawa. You're going to put the rolled out roti on top, and then as soon as you put it on the tawa, you're going to go ahead and baste it with the oil and butter mixture. And once that oil and butter mixture is properly spread throughout the top and it starts to bubble up really well, you're going to flip it, and then you're going to oil or baste this side really well, and then you'll continue flipping it until you get your desired golden brown color all over. Some people like a crispy aloo roti, some people like it nice and soft and chewy. Whatever way you like it, go ahead and cook it to your preferences. And today with my aloo puri, I am serving it with some homemade tamarind chutney. Now this is a cooked tamarind chutney that I went ahead and I made recently. The little recipe that I came up with, I'll be sharing it really soon on my channel, so be on the lookout for that. So maybe by next weekend you can go ahead and make your own tamarind chutney and aloo roti to pair together. And that's it, guys. After you follow all of those tips and tricks and all of those steps, you will come and get these soft and delectable aloo puris or aloo rotis. So if you made it to the end of this video, I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for watching, and thank you for taking the time out of your day to follow along with me over here at Matthew's Guyanese Cooking. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and give it a nice big thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you are not subscribed yet, and if you're not subscribed yet, please become part of the Matthew's Guyanese Cooking family. Click that little notification icon and you'll be notified every time I post my newest videos. And of course, keep leaving those amazing comments down below. Love hearing from each and every one of you. I'll see you guys again very soon in my next video. Bye everyone.